Hello and welcome to the 2019 Summer Springboard Advising PowerPoint session. This is intended for those of you who are unable to attend our Summer Springboard sessions here at JMU. My name is Chris Campbell. I'm Assistant Director of First Year Programs here in Career and Academic Planning, and I'll be walking you through some of the content that was covered during the advising session at orientation. So first of all, what we'll cover is your role as a student, your advisor's role, go over general education requirements, talk a little bit about major and degree, and also your schedule as well. So you as a student, what are you responsible for? These 5 main areas right here: knowing your academic requirements. About general education, major degree, we'll talk about the differences between those in a few minutes. Any additional academic programs you're also studying, which could include pre-law, pre-medicine, for example. Number 2, choose a major and explore your career options. Many of you have already chosen a major at this point, but you may or may not know all of your career options. Career and Academic Planning is an office where you can receive additional information about what your career options will be after graduation. In addition to, you'll be learning about careers potentially also in your major classes as you progress through your sophomore, junior, and senior years. Number 3, know your academic advisor, his or her preferred method of communication, their phone, email, office hours, and initiate contact for them for support. So for first year students, they're all assigned a first year advisor who will assist them in the selection of their classes for the fall and spring semesters of their first year. Then what happens is February is students are reassigned to a major advisor who will walk them through their sophomore, junior, and senior level course curriculum. Number 4, prepare meetings with your advisor. More than likely, you'll meet with your advisor a few times each semester to talk about what courses you're planning on doing. Maybe if you're adding a major, a second major, maybe a minor, or another pre-professional program. So when you're meeting with your advisor to discuss course selection or any other things that might come up during your fall or spring semesters, make sure you're prepared to discuss those things with your advisor. And last but not least, definitely ask your advisor questions that you don't know or clarifications or any concerns you may have, because even though your advisor might not be able to directly address the concern that you have, he or she will be able to refer you to the right resource on campus to solve your problem. And then last but not least, you're obviously responsible for your decisions, actions, and hold yourself accountable for academic rigor. So your advisor can guide you to certain resources to help you be successful during your first year here at JMU. But ultimately, you have to make sure that you're responsible enough to reach out to them when you find yourself needing assistance. So what's your advisor's role? Your advisor is here to help you with academic planning decision making. So if you're thinking, okay, if I want to add a second major or minor, how do I do that? If I want to add a pre-professional program, like I said before, like pre-medicine or pre-veterinary or pre-optometry, for example, how does that fit in with my current coursework? What does that look like for the future? Your advisor can help you walk through all those different questions and scenarios. Number 2, address concerns regarding general education major degree. So we'll be talking again about those in a few minutes. But general education major degree requirements are going to be slightly different depending on what major you choose. So not all students will be taking the same exact Gen A classes. They'll be required to complete them, but there's obviously a difference between what one student would like to take and what they're required to take for Gen Ed, their major, and their degree. Number 3, explain how students' academic decisions affect their progress through meeting graduation requirements. So depending on what major you choose and the classes that you complete and when you complete them, your advisor will tell you what's the best way to kind of set up your schedule so you graduate in 4 years. Number 4, discuss academic choices with regard to long-term academic career goals. So looking ahead, if you have a certain career in mind or you want to be in a certain place after you graduate, your advisor can kind of go through those different choices and suggest different courses that will help you achieve the goals you have after graduation. And then last but not least, number 5, help you identify other resources on campus as needed. So again, if your advisor isn't the main contact person for the concern you may have, certainly they will be able to refer you to the right office on campus to fix that concern. So your advisor essentially is your partner in helping you make your transition from high school to college and make sure that transition is successful. So like I said before, everyone is assigned a first-year advisor, essentially at orientation or after orientation, and you're with this person who will walk you through your fall and spring course selection your first year until February. Then in February of your first year, we transition you to a major advisor who will walk you through your, like I said before, sophomore, junior, and senior level classes. Now, some of you have a pre-professional program, like for example, pre-law, pre-med, will also have an advisor for that pre-professional program. If as well you're adding a minor or even a second major, you will also have access to an advisor for those programs as well. So potentially you might have multiple advisors depending on how busy your academic plan is. Career Ready Skills Connected General Education. If you're not familiar already from the modules, General Education is the program that all students go through regardless of major, and it breaks down into 5 cluster areas. You can see on the left side of this chart, you see cluster 1, there's 3 courses and 1 exam. Cluster 2, there's 3 courses involving arts, humanities. Cluster 3, that's the natural world, that's our science and math area, consists of potentially 3 or 4 courses. Cluster 4, social cultural processes, there's 2 courses in that area. Cluster 5, individuals in the community, which is another additional 2 courses. So what you're learning about or what the objectives are, you can see to the column on the right. In cluster 1, critical thinking, communication, and writing. Now, what makes cluster 1, and it's important, different from clusters 2, 3, 4, and 5, is that cluster 1 is the only cluster that you have to complete in your first year. So cluster 1 consists of 3 different courses in the areas of critical thinking, human communication, and writing. And you have to complete a course from each of those 3 areas in either the fall or the spring semester. So you'll be taking those three classes in your first year and completing them. Now, clusters 2, 3, 4, and 5 are by graduation. Now, most students do complete those courses in their first 2 years, but certainly there's no time limit. So potentially you might find yourself completing a final gen ed course maybe in your junior or senior year. Now, these skills that you're learning through the gen ed course and curriculum also tie to career readiness skills, and Office of Career and Academic Planning has this graphic on the right there that shows you your problem solving, leadership, digital technology, and how these different areas match up to what you're learning in general education. So the things that you're picking up in your first 2 years through general education are really laying that groundwork for you as a student to be successful not only in your upper division classes that you may be completing as a sophomore, junior, and senior, but also as you transition out of university as well. So your degree here at JMU breaks them down into 4 main areas. So you have 120 credits. So that's what every student needs to graduate, is at least a minimum of 120 credits. So like we just talked about in the previous slide, general education, that's the same for every student in every major. They will have to complete those general education requirements that we just looked at in the previous slide. Now, depending on what your major is, you may choose different courses in each one of those clusters. You don't have to take the same clusters as your roommate or one of your friends, but certainly all students will have to complete those requirements. Then we come to the lower piece of the pie there. You can see your major. Now, depending on your major, this area of the graph will be larger or smaller depending on how many requirements that you have. Some majors have a large number of requirements that may include close to 20 different classes that you have to complete for the major. Some majors are a little bit smaller, where they might require only 12 to 13 classes within the major to be completed. So that area will shift depending on what major you've selected to complete at JMU. So the next area, over to the left there, we see degree requirements. Now, we grant a number of different degrees here at James Madison University depending on the major that you select. So, for example, if you're choosing to major in management, for example, you will earn a BBA degree, which is a Bachelor's of Business Administration. Now, there are certain requirements that come along with that Bachelor's of Business Administration that make it different from, say, a degree in political science, which would be a Bachelor of Arts degree. So, depending on the major that you select, you potentially will have to complete different courses to satisfy those degree requirements as compared to some of your classmates. So Some majors will have different options. For example, school communications, if you have a communications degree, the communications major, you can select the Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science degree. It's totally up to you. Now, a lot of students will ask, well, what's the difference between the two areas, Bachelor of Science versus Bachelor of Arts? Many times the major requirements are exactly the same, so you're taking the same classes that your friend is. So you might be a BA in communications and your friend might be a Bachelor of Science. So you could sit in all the communications classes through all your 4 years right next to each other. But the main difference between a BA and BS is that with a Bachelor of Arts, you would need to complete a foreign language up to the intermediate level and an extra philosophy course. And your friend who's maybe completing a Bachelor of Science in Communications, they would not have to do that. They would complete an extra math or a quantitative reasoning class and an extra science or social science. So you just have to ask yourself, if you're looking at an area that has a BA or BS option, am I more of a foreign language and philosophy person, or am I more of a science and math person? That will help you kind of figure out potentially what degree you might want to choose. And then last but not least, the red section, the electives. So this area is usually where minors fall, or your pre-professional programs like pre-med, pre-vet, pre-OT, for example. Any classes that aren't counting for general education, your major, or your degree would be an elective because you're electing to take it. You're not necessarily required to take it. But certainly, if you have a minor, there are certain classes that are required for minors, and usually minors are about the half the size of a major. Most of our minors here at JMU are only potentially 6 or 7 classes most times, which comes out to about 18 or 20 or 21 credits depending on the minor that you select. And this red piece certainly will be larger or smaller depending on how big the bottom piece your major is. So that will kind of flex on depending on how big your major is. If you have a fairly large major, say for example like engineering and biology, you'll have a small piece of small area of the pie for electives. However, if you have a kind of a smaller major, like let's say history, English, or communications, that red area will be a little bit larger. So you have more time, an opportunity to easily add in a minor or take additional elective classes. So the general education program, like I said before, is what all students have to take. General education has a great resource website explaining all the courses, the seats that are, the types of curriculum that's offered, and everything about you might want to learn about what your options are in general education. Also, too, located in the catalog, which is online, you can find the philosophy, mission statement, goals, and again, as you can see at the bottom of that graphic, the different credits, cluster credit hours will also show you descriptions of the different courses, kind of outlining what the objectives are and what the course content will be for this semester. So your major and degrees. Also, again, this is in our online catalog, as you can see here, just a short graphic of degrees offered, starting with Bachelor of Arts. And if you were to go down on the website, you can scroll down and go through the other majors, the other degrees offered at JMU, like Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Business Administration, BSN, which is Bachelor of Science in Nursing, BM, which is a Bachelor of Music, for example. And you can see, as we're looking here at the Bachelor of Arts list from A to Z, these are all the majors that you can earn a Bachelor of Arts during your time at JMU. If you're wanting to learn more about each major, more in-depth information, we have major snapshots, which is located at this website here. You can see they're all in alphabetical order and what you pick out. Major that you're interested in, which will tell you a little bit more in-depth about the career options, the courses, and the type of degree and content you learn by majoring in that said content area. So for those who are undeclared, or potentially some of you who are declared but maybe aren't 100% sure that the major that you have is right for you, Career and Academic Planning is a great resource for you to learn a little bit more about what your academic options are, or maybe if you have a major and you're thinking about a second major or a minor, what you might want to add with that. Career and Academic Planning is a place for you to kind of explore and talk to an academic and career counselor about what your options are and how that might fit in with where your ultimate vocational goals are after JMU. So, some more information about your major degree. If you should have by now have gone through the first semester enrollment worksheets and the modules, so you should have a decent idea of what you need to select for the fall semester. And you can make adjustments to your schedule on August 1st. So open enrollment begins. That's when you'll be allowed to go in and adjust your schedule or add any additional classes to your schedule. That actually opens on 12 o'clock a.m. on the 1st, so very early in the morning. You can add, swap, and drop classes between then all the way through September 3rd, which is the second Tuesday of the fall semester. It's always the second Tuesday of the semester. You can certainly change your schedule as many times you want, anytime you want, between August 1st and September 3rd. Now, after September 3rd, what happens is it becomes much more difficult to add classes. You can't do that on your own. You have to have special permission from either the professor or the department to do that, to add classes. But certainly after September 3rd, you're allowed to drop classes on your own. And you can certainly, I would suggest that you talk to your advisor if you're changing your schedule, certainly if you're adding or swapping or dropping any classes between August 1st and 3rd, you want to give them a heads up on what you're doing, or ask them their opinion if that's a good decision to add or drop or swap a certain class. Change major requests. If you're currently thinking about changing your major, anytime between now and when you arrive on campus for 1787 orientation on August 22nd, please reach out and email first year advising. We'll make that change for you and reassign you to a new advisor all the way through August 13th. After that, we can still change your major, but we won't necessarily change your advisor at that point. You can certainly declare minors and second majors when the semester begins on August 26th, but until that point, unfortunately, we can't add a second major or any minors to your record. You'll have to do that when you arrive on campus during the first day of class. You'll be able to complete those transactions through My Madison on August 26th. And remember, just another thing to point out, your JMU Duke's email is the official means of communication with the university between you and your advisor and any other offices at the university. So please make sure you start making a habit of checking that regularly. Just another option I want to point out, UNST 102 Career and Academic Planning is open to all students. We still have a few seats, I believe, in the classes for the fall semester, and certainly we teach this class also in the spring semester as well. It's a 1-credit course designed to help you make informed decisions about major career paths, not just for undergraduate students, but certainly if you have a major and you've already chosen, and you have all that figured out, you may or may not know all the career options that go with your major. So it still could be a beneficial class for you. And it provides information on different skills you might have, interests, and how those interests and skills and abilities fit in with the major or the career you're thinking about in the future. So we're almost done. Just want to point out another area of FERPA, which is Family Educational Right to Privacy Act 1974. James Madison University adheres to FERPA as it is amended. With this act, the institution intends to fully comply. So under FERPA, students have certain rights with respect to the educational records. So what that means essentially is that, unlike high school, your parents will not have access to your academic record. If you'd like them to have access to your academic record, you can certainly reach out to our registrar to allow them to see your grades as they're posted. But JMU will not release your grades or information outside of directory information to any outside party without your consent. So that's kind of a quick overview of what went on at your advising presentation this summer during Summer Springboard. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to your academic advisor. They'll be listed in your Student Center in My Madison. Again, open enrollment happens at 12 o'clock a.m. on August 1st. So please review the enrollment modules and your first semester enrollment worksheet to make sure you're in the correct classes. And if you have any additional questions, please reach out to your advisor as soon as possible. Again, my name is Chris Campbell. I work in career and academic planning, and thank you for your time.